Hello guys, I'm Savvy and welcome back to another Destiny 2 build video. In the last one, I went over all of my armor mods that I use on pretty much all of my builds. So if you guys are interested in looking at that, you guys will get a link at the end of this, or you'll be able to click on a video that is on that topic. But in this one, we're going to be going over my Void build that I use. So I've been able to do all of my other builds. So I've done Solar, Strand, Arc, Stasis, and Prismatic, which some of those videos will also be posted at the end of this, so you guys can check them out as well. Or you can go and check under the Destiny 2 playlist, and you'll be able to find them there if you scroll down enough. But before we actually get into the aspects, abilities, and fragments, and even the super and exotic, please be sure to leave a like if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button as well, because that lets me know that you guys enjoy the video and also want to see more content like this or other stuff that I do on the channel. It'd really help me out a lot. Okay, so here we are in Void Walker. Now, for Void Walker, we have a lot of things that are actually going to be working in tandem with one another, which is why Void is really good in a lot of aspects and in a lot of many ways. And this will also include my exotic on top of that as well. Let's dive in and do some demonstrations as well after we describe some things. So starting off, I don't really read the abilities, but I think for this one, for this build in particular, it's very important that we read at least the melee and the grenade, because again, a lot of these abilities are going to work in tandem with one another. So starting off with my melee, we have what is called Pocket Singularity. Launch an unstable ball of void energy that detonates when it nears a target, pushing them away from the blast and making them volatile. And volatile, as it describes here, is the target is afflicted with unstable void energy and will explode upon taking additional damage. Volatile rounds from your void weapons pierce the shields of barrier champions and stun them, which is really cool. So if we have volatile rounds in our weapon, and which works with any void weapon, we'll be able to pierce barrier champions, which is pretty interesting. Reminds me of having Radiance and being able to penetrate barrier champions and their shields. So moving on to the grenade, we have Vortex Grenade. And what this does is it's a grenade that creates a vortex that pulls targets inward and continually damages those trapped inside. Now, what's going to be really cool about this is not only can it do what it's described here, but what I have in my fragments allows the grenade to also weaken targets too. And if we go to the fragment here, we have what is called the Echo of Undermining, which your void grenades weaken targets. And weaken is the target takes increased damage and has their movement speed slowed. Afflicted combatants have difficulty firing accurately. Now, this also has a caveat to it because this has minus 20 discipline. So I will say it's definitely worth it because it's a very useful tool, not only for solo playthroughs, but even if you were to do this in a raid or even a dungeon with some of your friends or any teammates that you come across in the game, because it's really good to have a consistency of weaken on enemies because it'll be much easier to defeat them. And we'll be showing this off in this Lost Sector. So where I am right now, I'm on Europa, and I decided to go into the Lost Sector Perdition. Now this is very good to demonstrate because there are quite a few enemies here, even on the regular end, and I think for this it'll be really good. So the first thing I'm going to demonstrate is going to be the melee. And because it is volatile, it'll cause enemies to become volatile, which is really cool. And something else works in tandem with things being volatile, but I'll go over that once I actually show you guys. This melee that I have is a projectile. So if I just hit C, which I'm using keyboard, I just throw it, and it causes a little rift here as well. And as you can see on the left side of my screen, you can see that I have Devour, and as I'm killing enemies here, you can also see that my timer increases each time I kill an enemy. just like that. So you're probably wondering, well, how is that happening? How does this work? We have what is Feed the Void. So you're probably, like I said earlier, you're probably wondering, well, what's going on? How am I getting my void energy back? Or how am I getting Devour back? Or what is Devour? How is it working? Etc., etc. So what this does is the hunger which derives from absence. Only sustenance can prolong it, yet nothing will ever satiate. Defeat a target with a void ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. And Devour says, feast on the energy of your defeated foes. Final blows restore health, grant grenade energy, and extend Devour. As you saw that little void rift that was there on the ground, what that's from is from Echo of Cessation. Now this is really cool because it works in two ways. So as you saw with my melee, it made something volatile, but Echo of Cessation can also work in another way with finishers. So finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby combatants to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets creates a void breach. So because of the melee making them volatile already, it'll just automatically create a void breach when I'm able to, when it's able to. And void breaches are very important because what it does is, or what it is and what it does is it's a dimensional rupture teaming with void energy. When picked up, void breaches grant class ability energy. So once I picked it up, there was no class ability energy that was drained, it was full. So you couldn't really see much of an effect there. But we will be able to see that because we're going to be also demonstrating the aspects as well. And one of the aspects from the class ability energy that works in tandem with my healing rift is what is called the Child of the Old Gods. So what this is and what it does is in the deepest reaches, a pact made between unknowable entities created something from nothing. It lives on. Cast your rift to create a void soul. When you damage a target with a weapon, your void soul flies to them and drains them, doing damage and weakening them. When a target is being drained, you are granted grenade and melee energy, if running healing rift, or health if running empowering rift. Defeating a target who is being drained by your Void Soul grants class ability energy. So there are two things that will grant class ability energy. One is from the Void Soul from draining enemies' health, and the other is from the Void Breaches. So there's two things working together in order for it to meet the same goal, which is really cool. Now, let's demonstrate the grenade first because I gotta show that it can pull enemies in and also weaken them too. So the weaken part I can easily demonstrate by just throwing it at this Hydra. And you can see the yellow numbers there as it's getting weakened. So it's really cool. But since I ran out of my grenade, what I can do is throw down my healing rift, show my Void Soul here, shoot any of these enemies here. You can see how they're getting weakened, and now their health is being drained, and as you can see, my abilities were also being replenished on top of that. So what I'll do is I'll demonstrate that a second time so you guys can get a closer look as to how my abilities are replenishing. So let me just throw down my grenade there. You can see how it pushed the harpy in there, just like so. I'm going to bring down my healing rift once again. Now look at the bottom left as it's draining enemies' health. You can see how it's going up slowly. And I also picked up a Void Breach, which was really good too. So you can see how my abilities could replenish themselves pretty fast within a short amount of time as long as I keep it consistent. I just think it's really, really good as we go through this. And the more enemies you have, the more ability energy you're going to get back. Class ability, grenade ability, melee ability. It's really good. Now the next two things in our fragments, which is going to be pretty cool, which the third one in particular is going to be one of the cool ones and one of the other ones that work pretty well with a class mod that I use. And this is called the Echo of Obscurity. So what this does is finisher final blows grant invisibility. This also gives you +10 recovery. And what invisibility is you vanish from sight and do not appear on radar. While invisible, your radar range is reduced. Performing offensive actions will end invisibility. So by offensive actions, it just means, meleeing enemies, shooting at enemies, etc. Now, what I mean by the class mod that I'm using is Proximity Ward. And what Proximity Ward does is it gives you a gain of a powerful overshield while performing your finisher. I kind of read that weird, but you get the picture. So if I were to finish something, it would give me an overshield. But not only that, but because I'm using Void and I have the Echo of Obscurity, I'm going to also become invisible. So I'm going to show you guys that real quick. So I'm going to find an enemy in this lost sector, and I'm going to do two things at once. I'm going to zoom in on the top bar where my health is and show that the overshield occurs, but I'm also going to do it a second time to show you guys that I turn invisible. So I'm going to shoot his leg. I'm going to finish this. And you saw how my blue bar was up there. And you can still see how I'm invisible, but I'm going to do it again so that we can see the initial visibility action that happens. Just like that. And invisibility doesn't last that long. It's only 5 seconds, but it can get you out of a pickle pretty easily if I do, if I do say so myself. So it's pretty cool. I like it. But the final one here is Echo of Leeching. And what this does is melee final blows start health regeneration for you and your nearby allies. So that it's also very fascinating with that, because it's crazy because the Devour gives you health, but then this Fragment also gives you health too. But not only for you, but also for your friends, your allies. This is what I mean by everything is working together. Everything works together with this build. Everything just flows so naturally with one another. Also, this Minotaur wants to get me, and I don't want him to get me. So a couple of the last things that I want to show off is the exotic itself that I'm using, the armor exotic, because this is also what ties in everything too, and it's just what a lot of people actually run because it's just a really good exotic. And it's Nezarec Sin. Now, Nezarec Sin, what this does, it's pretty simple, is it says it's called Abyssal Extractors for the perk, and what it does is a void damage kill increases ability energy recharge rate. I read that a little bit differently just to fit the sentence that I was trying to say, but that's basically what it does. And it doesn't say class ability energy, melee ability energy, grenade ability energy, it just says ability energy. So it's across the board. So all of my abilities that I have that are void, it just gets increased as long as I keep defeating enemies. And the last thing that I want to show is the super that I use in Void Walker, which is the Vortex. Now, I switch between Vortex and Cataclysm. I typically run Cataclysm because I think that the damage, it's pretty quick and fast, and it also has Seekers, which does extra damage as well. But I'll read that description in a moment, but we want to go over the Vortex first since I have this equipped first. So what Vortex does is hurl an explosive bolt of void light at a target, disintegrating those caught within its blast. Nova Bomb creates a singularity that pulls targets inward and continually damages those trapped inside. And I'll be able to demonstrate this quite well, because there's going to be a lot of enemies that are going to appear in this lost sector, which I think is going to be very important. But I also want to read to you what Cataclysm does as well, because I use it interchangeably between Cataclysm and Vortex. So what this does is hurl an explosive bolt of void light at a target, disintegrating those caught within its blast. Nova Bomb travels slowly and seeks targets. Detonations shatter into smaller seeker projectiles. Now the thing is about Cataclysm, it's a little bit iffy, because not every single time are the Seekers going to shoot out. I've had many times where the Seekers will not show up. It'll just be the initial burst of the Cataclysm super, but no Seekers. And then other times, the Seekers will appear and it'll do amazing damage, or it'll defeat other enemies around so I can create more orbs of power. it's kind of it's a teeter-totter. It works and then it doesn't. I don't know what the cause of it is, or if there's a specific way that you have to do it for it to work. But for Vortex, you just have a lingering super. It lingers for quite some time, and it's actually really good too because it does damage over time, and it's kind of a safer route to go because Cataclysm gets in the way of things, especially if you're trying to shoot a boss and try to defeat it. If you throw a Cataclysm Nova, it's a big round purple ball that is a physical object, and it can block people's vision, so it's not good. So let me just throw my super here, and you're just going to see exactly what it does, and I'm just going to throw it right in the middle, just like that, and you see how it pulls enemies in, and it just lingers. It just lingers there for a while, and it's really good as it lingers around because even if there's no enemies around it, eventually if any enemies come in, they'll also be affected by the super and the lingering effect, and then they'll eventually be defeated on as well, which is pretty cool. So I guess while I'm at it, what I should do is switch to Cataclysm, and we're going to use the abilities that I've shown off throughout the entire video, and just, you know, kind of get to the point where we show the Cataclysm super once I fill it all up. And you'll see exactly, well, either you'll see the Seekers or you won't see the Seekers. It just depends on its mood, I guess. But you can see here my super energy is climbing pretty quickly, but it's still going to take a little bit for it to actually climb up all the way. Alright, so I have my Cataclysm super. So I'm going to throw it from a distance because I just want to demonstrate exactly how it works. And it'll seek this boss as well, so I'm going to throw it. You can see how it's a purple ball. There we go, and there are the Seekers. Just like that. And that's how it works. That's how it should work. Now, if there were other enemies around here, which I had to defeat the enemies in order for my super to take less time to go up all the way, those Seekers would actually go out and start seeking targets that are around the area. And we'll get more orbs of power that way. But we finished the last sector and demonstrated a lot of the abilities and the aspects here. Alright guys, I think that is going to be it for this showcase of my Void build. I really hope you guys did enjoy this, and I hope that you did learn something. And I think this was pretty fun, and I think what I'm going to do next is, even though I've already gone over all of the subclass builds, I think we can go a little bit more specific and talk about more supers and maybe even some more of the exotic items and how they work. They may be shorter videos, but we'll probably go into more specifics with certain exotics and certain subclasses that we have that I like to use sometimes, whether they're for fun or whether they're there for actual good functionality, you know, good for bosses or good for certain activities or something like that. But as I said in the beginning, if you did enjoy this, be sure to leave a like if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that. And don't forget to hit subscribe as well, because that lets me know that you guys enjoy the content on the channel and would like to see more. I'd like to give a shout out to my friends Bear Medley and Donkeys for Sale for being members of the channel, and you could become a member too by hitting the join button down below. I've been Savvy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys! See you later.